Your nervous system was never meant to carry this much for this long. The noise wasn't proof that I was broken. It was proof that I had been carrying too much for too long. You can love your people deeply without disappearing inside their needs. And the woman who finally starts to find peace, the women who stop surviving and just actually step into what it looks like to live, they're not the ones who figured out how to do more. They're the ones who finally gave themselves permission to matter inside their own lives. Self-preservation is not selfishness. It's what keeps you in the game. Well, you know that feeling when your body is technically sitting still, but internally, you feel like you're bracing for impact all day long? Like your brain never fully powers down. You're driving to work. You're answering texts. You're trying to remember what you forgot. Dinner's half planned. Your hormones are doing whatever they want. Someone needs something from you every 5 minutes. And underneath all of it, there's this low hum, this constant internal static. And I think a lot of midlife women secretly believe, what's wrong with me? Why can't I handle life like I used to be able to? But here's the truth. It's not a volume knob that you broke. Your nervous system was never meant to carry this much for this long. Years of mental load and overfunctioning and emotional labor and decision fatigue, people needing you constantly while you slowly disappear into your own life. That is going to catch up with you eventually. And if you've been feeling mentally loud lately, if you are exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix, well, this conversation is for you. So let's get into it. Well, if you've been following along and thinking, I need to go deeper, I need more, I want to invite you to something totally free that I've created. It's called Midlife Clutter Explained and Solved. This is my free Substack where every Tuesday I write a deeper unpacking of the real clutter that women are carrying. Not just the piles on the counter, but the mental load, the emotional backlog, the decision fatigue, the overthinking spirals. We break it down, we name it, we untangle it. And then on Fridays, I share a lighter post to help you reset your perspective before the weekend. Something that's grounding and clarifying and, of course, honest. If you've ever felt like your life looks fine on the outside but feels overloaded underneath, this is for you, and it's completely free. You can read it in 5 minutes or less, or you can sit with it longer if you choose. Just go to midlifeclutterhelp.com and subscribe to Midlife Clutter Explained and Solved. Because clutter isn't just about stuff, it's about capacity. And we're going to talk about it there. Well, okay, I want you to know before we get into this that this is not me pointing the finger at you. This is not me sitting on some soapbox telling you what you should be doing differently. I have been in this, and I have coached women through this for years. And I have learned some things that I really am excited to share with you today because I don't think midlife women need another lecture on self-care. I think they need permission to stop treating survival mode like a personality trait. I think a lot of women are carrying nervous system exhaustion that they've been calling normal for so long that they've forgotten what it even feels like to not be carrying it. And so today we're going to work on changing that. And so here's what we're going to be talking about. Why midlife feels mentally louder than it used to, and what's actually happening in your body and your life. Why overfunctioning eventually catches up with women, no matter how capable they actually are, and how to stop treating your stress like failure because it is not failure. And I'm going to give you a simple reset that actually helps you protect your capacity instead of ignoring it again. So let me start by asking you something. When is the last time that you felt genuinely fully at rest? Not just sitting still, not just watching TV while also mentally cataloging everything that needs to happen tomorrow. Not just lying in bed with your eyes closed while your brain runs a highlight reel of everything you forgot to do today. I just mean at a place actually of resting, peace, calm. When your brain is not racing, when your shoulders are down, when your jaw is not clenched, Again, your brain is quiet. And if you're having trouble remembering the last time, if that question actually made you feel a little bit stressed or a little sad, well, hey, you're not alone. And that's actually the thing I want to talk about first. Because one of the most dangerous parts of midlife stress is that it becomes kind of like this background noise. You get so used to it being there. You get so used to carrying all of the things and all of this constant noise that you stop questioning it. It becomes your baseline. It's the new normal. It's the way that life feels. It's the way that life is. And the problem with that is that when something is your baseline, you stop trying to change it. You just try to manage it. You white knuckle through it. You caffeinate through it, or you have a glass of wine through it, or you stay busy enough that you don't have to actually feel it. And for a while, maybe for a long while, that works, at least sort of, until it doesn't. So let me paint some pictures. And I want you to just kind of notice how many of these situations that I'm going to describe to you actually feel familiar, okay? You're sitting in the grocery store line, not on your phone. Nobody is talking to you. You have 12 whole minutes where nothing is being asked of you. And you still cannot relax. Your shoulders are up. Your mind is already on to the next thing. Your body doesn't know what to do with stillness and just being still because stillness has started to feel completely foreign to you. Or maybe there's this one. You feel irrationally angry, like disproportionately angry. When someone asks you what's for dinner, you know cognitively that it's a reasonable question. You know that they're not trying to attack you, and you still feel this flash of rage because underneath that question is a mountain of mental load that nobody else sees. It's the planning, it's the thinking, it's the deciding, it's the executing. All of that invisible work just kind of lives in you. And so when someone asks that question, it's one more thing piled on top of a pile that was already too high. Here's another situation. You walk into a room and forget why you were there. Not once, but 6 times within the matter of a few hours. And instead of just chalking it up to like a distracted moment, you spiral and you start to worry and you say things like, what's happening to my brain? Am I completely losing it? Here's another scenario. You lie in bed at 10 p.m., legitimately tired in your bones, but your brain is there drafting tomorrow's to-do list. It's replaying a conversation from 2 days ago. It's wondering if you said the right thing. It's planning what you're going to say to someone next week. It's going over something that you can't control. It's running scenarios that you won't need to deal with for another 6 months, but it's doing all of those things. You feel touched out, talked out, needed out. Like if one more person needs something from your body or your brain, in the next 5 minutes, you might actually come apart at the seams. What about this? You open your phone to check one specific thing, just one, and then you immediately feel this wave of overwhelm before you've done anything, just from opening your phone. Here's another scenario that I see a lot. You go through an entire day being productive, getting things done, taking care of everyone around you. And at the end of it, you feel completely empty, not satisfied, not accomplished, just empty. Like you poured everything out and there was nothing coming back in. We just ran through a lot of scenarios. And if any of these sound familiar, even if 2 or 3 of these hit, this is something you're going to want to hear me say. These things, this is not just how life is. This is not what it means to be a woman in midlife. These scenarios is what nervous system exhaustion, even depletion, looks like. And it's more common than most women know and more serious than most women are treating it as well. Now, here's the part that I think gets missed. In most conversations, people are having about stress and anxiety. And by the way, I'm glad we're having these conversations as women these days. I'm glad we're talking about stress and overfunctioning and overload and anxiety. It is so necessary. But here is something that I think people just aren't talking about this piece of it enough. Your body changes in midlife, right? We know this. Your hormones shift. The estrogen and progesterone that used to help regulate your mood, your stress response, your sleep quality, your ability to recover, those are fluctuating in ways that directly impact how you experience stress. I shared this with one of my friends the other day while we were out for a walk, right? Again, everybody tracks with me when I say, you know that your body changes and that your hormones are shifting, right? Yes, right? Everybody will agree with me. But then I said, did you ever think about how the fluctuations of those hormones are affecting your body on a physiological level, right? Your cortisol response, they change with all of it changes with all of that hormone fluctuating. Your nervous system's ability to reset and recover changes. Things that used to roll off of you, they just don't. They just kind of stick to you now. This is not all in your head. This is actually biology, but most women are still trying to function like they did in their 30s, right? They're keeping the same pace. They have the same load. They have the same standard, the same number of commitments, the same expectation that they can run this hard indefinitely. And if they can't, something must be wrong with them then. And this creates a specific kind of panic that I am seeing in midlife women because you used to be able to power through. That is true. You were the one who had it all together, who managed the calendar and the home and the kids and possibly a career or a business on top of it. And you were the one who everyone counted on because you were reliable, you were capable, you could carry a lot. But now the same lifestyle that once felt manageable suddenly feels emotionally expensive, too expensive. And instead of asking, wait, what has changed? What does my body and my life actually need right now? Most women skip straight to what's wrong with me. And we need to stop doing that because that question, the what is wrong with me question, it's going to send you down the wrong road entirely. It turns a capacity problem into a character problem. It makes this about your worth instead of your wiring. And that is where the shame spiral then starts. And once you're in this shame spiral, you're no longer solving the real problem. You're just piling on more weight on top of an already overloaded nervous system. So let me tell you a little bit about what this looked like for me. There was a season, a real specific season, where my internal noise got so loud that I couldn't ignore it anymore. I was exhausted, not just tired, but that bone deep, even resentful, disconnected from myself, exhausted. I was overfunctioning in my own home because it felt easier to just do everything than to fight for help and then feel the sting of rejection when the people I loved didn't step up. And so I kept going, I kept carrying, I kept doing. I told myself it was just easier this way. And to some extent, that was true. I told myself that I didn't have time to deal with the conflict. I told myself that everyone was busy and I was just fine. But I wasn't fine. On the outside, I probably looked okay. I was still getting things done. I was still showing up. I was still functioning. I was still working. I was still coaching. But inside, I was running on empty. And if I'm being honest, I'll say this word again because it is 100% true. I was resentful. And I was quietly disappearing inside the life I had built, the life that I wanted. And I didn't even fully realize how far I drifted from myself until I couldn't ignore the noise anymore. And do you want to know what made that worse? It was the shame, because I kept thinking, you can't help women through this. You talk about boundaries and self-preservation and not overfunctioning. You know better than this. You should be handling this better. And that extra layer of judgment on top of all of the exhaustion, it was essentially crushing. And the turning point came for me when I finally stopped treating my stress like evidence of failure and started treating it just like it was information. Because the truth is, the noise wasn't proof that I was broken. It was proof that I had been carrying too much for too long without enough recovery, without enough support, without enough honesty about what I actually needed. And that reframe, once I got to it, it's when everything started to shift. Because you cannot fix something that you're busy being ashamed of. You cannot fix something you're busy being ashamed of. But when you start seeing your stress as a signal, as data, as information, your body is trying to say something to you. When you can see it that way, you can actually start to do something with the information you're getting. And this leads me directly into what I want to talk about next, which is there's a word that I want to name here. And that word is anxiety, right? Not anxiety as a clinical label, though for some of you that may absolutely be part of your story. And there is, by the way, zero shame in that. And please get the support that you need. But anxiety, as in that constant low grade background hum of tension and unease and mental static that so many midlife women are just living with and tolerating and accepting every single day. It's the kind that doesn't have one specific cause. It's the kind that's just there underneath everything. And here's how most women deal with it. They fight it. They try to think their way out of it. They tell themselves they shouldn't feel this way. They muscle through it. They stay busy so that they don't have to sit in it. They feel shame that it's there at all. And when they cannot make it go away, when the trying and the managing and the powering through stops working because it does get to that point, they decide that it must mean something bad about them. But what? Here's my challenge. Here's the thing I'm asking you to consider. What if that whole concept there is actually completely backwards? What if instead of treating your anxiety like an enemy, you treated it like a signal? I actually heard Mel Robbins talk about this once. This idea that anxiety is not a malfunction. It's your body's alarm system. It's your nervous system trying to get your attention because something needs attention. And I think midlife women especially have spent so many years overriding their own signals and pushing through and saying yes and staying available and staying capable, that by the time the anxiety gets loud enough to notice, it's been quietly building for a very long time. What if your anxiety isn't random? What if it's your nervous system waving a flag saying, hey, this pace is unsustainable. This emotional load is too heavy. You have been abandoning yourself for a long time and something has to change. Anxiety is often your body speaking after your mind has been ignoring itself for years. Anxiety is often your body speaking after your mind has been ignoring itself for years. Just sit with that for just 1 second. Because I know how many women are sitting here with this right now, this constant hum, and have been explaining it away for years. I'm just a worrier. I've always been like this. Everyone feels this way. I just need to push through it. No. You are not just a worrier. Everyone does not feel this way all the time. And pushing through is not the answer. It's part of what got you here, actually. And your anxiety is trying to tell you something. And the most powerful thing you can do, instead of fighting it or numbing it or shaming yourself for having it, it's to get curious about it. I love to talk about getting curious. So let me give you 2 tools that are going to help you get curious about it. Okay? Tool number 1 is what I'm calling the notice reset. And this one is simple, almost too simple, but trust me, simple is exactly what your nervous system needs when it's already overwhelmed. The next time you feel that static rising, the next time you feel that tightness or that tension, that familiar wave of, oh, this is too much, instead of immediately reacting or distracting or powering through, just pause. Pause, that's it. Count to 5 and ask yourself one question. What am I feeling right now? Not what should I be feeling, not what would a more put together person feel right now, not is this reaction valid or am I overreacting? None of those. The only question you may ask is, what am I feeling right now in this body, in this moment? I'm asking you to notice, not fix. Right? You're not allowing yourself to spiral into it, and you're definitely not judging yourself for it. You are just noticing. Maybe it will sound something like, I'm overstimulated. I have been on and available and responsive for 18 hours straight, and I have hit my limit. And can I just be honest with you here for a second? This was me last night. There was literally nothing left in me. I hit the wall. I was completely overstimulated for the reason I just said. I was on and doing all the things and performing, not in a bad way, but executing for 18 hours. And it just, the tank was completely empty. But as you ask that question, maybe you would discover I'm emotionally overloaded. I've absorbed everyone's stress and bad moods and needs all day long, and I am just full. There is no more room. I cannot absorb another thing. You could also say I'm carrying too many decisions. I have made 100 small choices today, and my decision-making capacity is simply gone. Maybe you would answer by saying, I haven't had a single moment of quiet in 3 days. Maybe you would say, I'm resentful. I am tired of being the only one who holds everything, and I'm running out of ways to pretend that that is okay. Maybe you would discover something as simple as, I'm exhausted. Just completely, thoroughly exhausted. Whatever it is, name it. And here's why naming it matters. Awareness, when you are aware of what is happening, awareness interrupts autopilot. When you name what's happening, you step slightly outside of it. You create a small but crucial gap between the feeling and your response. You are no longer just reacting from inside the static. You're observing it. It's like you're on the outside looking in, and your observance, that observation, it comes, along with that observation comes a choice at that point then. You cannot change something you refuse to look at. And that's why this awareness is so important. Naming what's happening without shame, without judgment, without immediately trying to fix it. It's actually the first step of self-leadership. Notice I didn't say self-care. I chose that word very carefully. Self-leadership. Self-leadership cancels out autopilot. That's why I used that word, okay? So that's what tool number 1, the notice reset, looks like. Well, if you've been following along and thinking, I need to go deeper, I need more, I want to invite you to something totally free that I've created. It's called Midlife Clutter Explained and Solved. This is my free Substack where every Tuesday I write a deeper unpacking of the real clutter that women are carrying. Not just the piles on the counter, but the mental load, the emotional backlog, the decision fatigue, the overthinking spirals. We break it down, we name it, we untangle it, and then on Fridays, I share a lighter post to help you reset your perspective before the weekend. Something that's grounding and clarifying and, of course, honest. If you've ever felt like your life looks fine on the outside but feels overloaded underneath, this is for you, and it's completely free. You can read it in 5 minutes or less, or you can sit with it longer if you choose. Just go to midlifeclutterhelp.com and subscribe to Midlife Clutter Explained and Solved. Because clutter isn't just about stuff, it's about capacity. And we're going to talk about it there. Here's tool number 2. Tool number 2. Ask, what is this trying to protect? So once you've named what you're feeling, you're ready to go one level deeper. Ask yourself this question, what is this trying to protect me from? Because most anxiety, most of the fear and the tension and the static isn't trying to take you down. It's trying to actually do the opposite. It's trying to protect you. That tight chest is often a fear of something like dropping the ball, of being the one who couldn't hold it together anymore. The racing thoughts at 2 a.m., this could be your brain trying to make sure that nothing gets forgotten, because somewhere along the way, you became the one who remembers everything and who became so tied to and doing that, being the one who remembers, became so tied to your identity that now forgetting feels like a complete identity malfunction, a complete identity flap, a complete failure. What about the irritability? When we think about women in menopause, how often do we have the stereotype of just being irritable, right? Because it's a thing. But again, let's get curious about it. What if that irritability, that short fuse, that snapping, the feeling like your skin is just too tight, that is a very strong signal of depleted capacity. And that's what happens when someone asks for one more thing and there is genuinely nothing left to give. It's almost impossible for that irritable response, inappropriate response to not happen. It's because there is zero left. What about the overthinking? This is something that we as women are so good at. The overthinking, right? It's the endless going over and over of a conversation or a decision. You're trying to prevent disappointment, trying to control an outcome so that you don't have to feel the pain of things going wrong. The emotional shutdown, the flatness, the I just don't have anything left feeling. This is your nervous system hitting a wall. And again, it doesn't mean that you're weak. It's when you hit that wall, a limitation is being communicated to you, whether you want to hear it or not. That's what's happening. But do you see how different it is when we use this second tool and we ask ourselves, what is this trying to protect? Right? When you start asking, what is this trying to protect? Your anxiety can stop being the enemy and it starts being a conversation now. It's a signal, it's a map pointing to something that needs tending to. And the goal stops being, how do I make this go away? And the goal then becomes, what does this situation actually need from me? The goal isn't to become a woman who never feels stress, which is impossible, by the way. The goal is to become a woman who listens to herself sooner, who catches the signal before it becomes this 4-alarm fire, before you hit the wall, before the irritable snap comes. So I want to talk about something that I think is at the root of so much of what midlife women are carrying. And it's this belief, this quiet, deeply held, often completely unconscious belief that you are only allowed to rest once everything is done. Does this resonate? Just let that sit there for a second. You can only stop when the list is finished. You can only breathe when everyone is taken care of. You can only have a moment for yourself after you've handled everything else or hit the wall, one of the two. Which means, again, practically speaking, that for the most part, you are never going to grant yourself rest because the list is never finished. There is always one more thing. There is always someone who needs something. There is always another responsibility that is standing between you and your ability to fully exhale. And so you keep going because stopping feels selfish, because rest feels like something you have to earn, because you have absorbed from your upbringing, from your culture, from social media, from decades of being the capable one. You've stepped into this message that your value is based on what you produce, what you manage, what you hold together, what you do for other people. And your own needs and your own capacity and your own limits, will those things come last, if they come at all? And here's the really important part, and just let this part in. Don't just hear what I'm saying, but truly let this in. Your nervous system cannot heal in an environment where you are constantly abandoning your own capacity and your own signals. You cannot outrun depletion. You cannot willpower your way through nervous system exhaustion. Maybe for a time, but again, there are limits. You cannot give, I call this your cup of resources, right? It's your capacity, it's your energy, it's your mental bandwidth, it's your physical, your physical resources for today. You cannot give from an empty cup. It can be, you can keep giving when it gets to dangerously low levels, but when it gets to E, just like your car will not drive, when it gets to the point of being completely empty in the gas tank, it will stop. You will stop. These are not mindset problems. These are physiological realities that I'm sharing with you. And yet, look at how many women are trying to just keep pushing, who are trying to pour from that empty cup, who are saying yes when every cell in their body is screaming no, because they don't want to disappoint anyone. They're volunteering for one more thing out of guilt, because not volunteering feels like not caring enough. Staying emotionally available around the clock for their kids and their partners and their friends and their everyone, because being needed feels like being valuable. Over-explaining every single boundary they try to set. building a legal case for why they're allowed to have a limit at all. Or maybe they're trying to be endlessly flexible because they've been told directly or indirectly that that's what good women, good workers, good moms, good wives, good people do. They're telling themselves that exhaustion is just the cost of doing business. This is what love requires. This is what life requires. This is what responsibility looks like. And I want to gently yet firmly push back on all of that, because this isn't bubble bath self-care that I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about a spa day or a pretty morning routine that you found on Pinterest. This is self-preservation. I'm talking about self-preservation. I'm not talking about self-care. We need self-preservation. That's what's actually happening. And there is a real meaningful difference. Self-care is what you do after you're already depleted. Self-preservation, that's what we really need to be focusing on, because it's learning to recognize your limits before you crash into them. It's making intentional choices to protect your capacity, not because you're selfish, but because you understand that you are a finite, limited resource, and you are the only one responsible for managing that resource wisely. No one else can do it for you. And here's what I want to say to every woman who just felt a little flicker of guilt while I was talking. Protecting yourself is not abandoning your people. It's what makes it possible to keep showing up for them. A woman who is running on nothing and who is resentful and depleted and emotionally checked out and physically done is not fully showing up for her people. She's just present. There's a difference between being in the room and actually being present in the room. The version of you who protects her capacity, who listens to her limits, who says no to the thing that would push her over the edge, that woman shows up more fully, more warmly, more intentionally for the people she loves. Do you see how this is not selfishness? This is wisdom. So let me give you another tool. I'm going to call this one the 90-second static reset, and I want to walk you through it. So there's 3 steps in this one, okay? And each one takes 30 seconds. You can do this in your car. You can do this in the bathroom. You can do this between this thing and the next. You don't need a big chunk of time. You don't need a quiet room. You need 90 seconds and the willingness to actually walk through these 3 steps, okay? So step number 1, 30 seconds. You're going to spend 30 seconds noticing. Where are you holding the noise in your body right now? Not what are you thinking about, but where do you feel all of the movement physically? Is it in your jaw? A lot of women carry tension there and they don't even know it until they consciously check in and ask. What about your chest? That tight, slightly breathless, almost bracing yourself for the next thing feeling? Is it in your shoulders that you're carrying it, right? Are your shoulders up around your ears where they've been all day? What about your stomach, that low-grade knot that just kind of lives there, right? Find where you're holding all of the noise in your body right now. You're just finding it. You're not judging it, and you're not trying to fix it either. You're just locating it. That's what step 1 is all about. Notice, okay? Step 2 is name, another 30 seconds. Now, what is this actually about? This is what you're doing now. You're not looking for the sanitized version. You're not focusing on what you're supposed to be feeling, but what are you actually feeling in this moment? Is it overload? Is it pressure? Is it resentment? Is it fear? Is it depletion, loneliness, decision fatigue, the feeling that you have given everything and there's nothing left to give? Say it honestly, even if it feels too big or too messy, because naming it is when it starts to break its grip on you. So that's 30 seconds naming it. The final step is to protect, and you're going to spend 30 seconds doing this, and you're going to be asking this one question. What do I need right now in this moment to protect my capacity? Not what would fix everything, not what would make the stress disappear completely, just what is one small thing that I can do or choose or let go of right now to protect what I do have left. Maybe it's one less commitment today, the thing that you were about to say yes to that now you're actually going to say no to. Maybe it's one delayed decision, the thing that doesn't actually need to be figured out this afternoon. Even though your brain is telling you it's an emergency, maybe you're not going to make that decision this afternoon. Maybe it's asking for help with something, even though you're pretty sure you won't actually get the help you've asked for. That's what you're still deciding you can do. Maybe it's 10 minutes alone before you walk back into the house, sitting in the car, in the driveway, in silence. Ask me how many times I've done this. I wouldn't even know the answer. Maybe it's just saying no to one thing without over-explaining why. The action that you're going to do, the way that you're going to protect here, it doesn't have to be this big thing. It's not about a big dramatic life overhaul. What we need to do is have these tiny acts of self-preservation. And here's why these tiny acts of self-preservation matter more than they seem. Tiny acts of self-preservation teach your nervous system something. They teach it, hey, you know what? I matter too. Your nervous system, which has been operating in fight or flight mode, which has been bracing for impact, which has been running on cortisol and willpower and whatever is left at the bottom of the tank, it needs to learn that, you know what? I'm actually okay here. It needs to begin learning, you know what? I am being cared for, that you are not going to keep abandoning yourself every single time something else needs you. Again, not in one big moment of transformation, but in these small, consistent, intentional choices that you're going to step into in terms of self-preservation over time. That's how you reset. That's how you build something different. And this is how we actually begin healing and recovering from that constant background noise that, again, we stopped even noticing. We just thought it was part of the deal. And so I want to zoom out for a second and name something that I don't hear talked about enough again, because I think there's something bigger happening underneath all of this for a lot of women in midlife. The 40s and the 50s, the season of shifting hormones and kids growing up and roles changing and life starting to look different than you imagined it would. Midlife has a way of kind of cracking things open. And I mean that in the best possible way, even when it doesn't feel that way from the inside. For a lot of women, this is the season when the strategies that worked before stop working. The pace that was manageable, it isn't anymore. The coping mechanisms and the staying busy and the saying yes to everything and the tying your worth to productivity, finding your value and being needed, they start to feel hollow. And that's what makes that noise get louder. And I think genuinely that noise is an invitation. It's not a punishment. It's not a malfunction of some kind. It's not proof that you're falling apart. It's simply an invitation to stop running long enough to ask, who am I underneath all of this? What do I actually want? What does my life need to look like for me to feel like myself again? Because you cannot keep living disconnected from yourself and expect to find quiet. Not the actual quiet, but the soul quiet. That's what we need. And the fact that we need this, by the way, it's not a weakness thing. This is a reality thing. And the woman who can navigate this season well, the ones who find their footing and who rebuild something that actually fits, who come out on the other side feeling like themselves again, they are the ones who chose to listen. Not perfectly, not all at once, not without struggle or missteps, but they chose to stop treating themselves essentially like an afterthought in their own life. And I want to be clear about what that actually looks like, because I know how this can get misread. This is not about becoming less caring. It's not about becoming less giving. It's not about becoming less responsible or less devoted to the people that you love. The women that I have seen do this work really do it. They don't become selfish. They become more honest, more intentional, more protective of their peace, more aware of what they can carry and what they cannot carry, more willing to lead themselves well so that they can actually show up with something left to give. And because of that, they show up better for their families, for their relationships, for their communities, for their jobs. And it's not because they are doing more. It's because they are doing the things they are doing from a fuller, more grounded place. Here's the line that I keep coming back to over and over again. You can love your people deeply without disappearing inside their needs. Those two things can coexist. You can be a devoted mother, and a whole person. You can be a committed partner and have your own needs. You can be a caring friend and have limits. You're allowed to be a person, just not a bunch of roles and responsibilities, and that's all there is to it. And learning to hold both of those things at once, that is really the real work of this season. The real work is not in figuring out how to do more, but it's how to be present for the life that you already have by taking better care of the woman who is living it. This isn't about reinventing or finding yourself. It's about observing and allowing yourself. The version of you that existed before the world convinced you that you had to earn your own peace, that you had to prove that you were worth resting, that everyone else's needs were more urgent than your own, she's still in there. And this season, this loud, this hard, this cracking open season, this can be her invitation, again, before everything got so loud. This is that woman's invitation to come back. And so I want to kind of bring everything together with this. If you've been feeling mentally loud lately, if your brain feels crowded and you can't remember the last time it was quiet, if your body constantly feels tense, it's constantly bracing, it's constantly waiting for the next thing to fall apart, if life has started to feel emotionally expensive in a way that scares you a little bit, if you're being honest, this is something you're going to want to hear clearly. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are not failing at adulthood. You are not broken. You are a woman who has been carrying years of lots of things, but the things that we often don't realize is years of emotional labor and mental load and responsibility pressure and overstimulation without enough recovery, without enough support, and not enough self-preservation, not self-care, but self-preservation built in along the way. Of course, your nervous system is going to be speaking up. And of course, the noise is loud. Of course, you're exhausted. The answer is not to become harder on yourself. The answer is not to try harder or push further or manage better or do more. The answer is how to listen sooner to the signals, to your limits, to the part of you that has been quietly asking for something different for a really long time and has been ignored in favor of everyone else's needs for just as long. Because you and your brain and your emotions were never meant to carry this much alone. And the woman who finally starts to find peace, the women who stop surviving and just actually step into what it looks like to live, they're not the ones who figured out how to do more. They're the ones who finally gave themselves permission to matter inside their own lives, to rest before they crash, to say no before they resent, to ask for help before they're desperate, to protect their sanity before it's completely gone. All of those things, those are available to you, not after everything settles down, not once the kids are older or the schedule gets lighter or things magically become less complicated, but right now in this season with this life starting today. So let me give you 4 key takeaways I want to make sure you walk away with today. The hum, the background noise, it is not who you are, it's simply information. The constant mental noise and background tension so many midlife women live with is not a character flaw and it's not permanent. It's your nervous system communicating that the load has gotten too heavy for too long. Stop diagnosing yourself as the problem. Start listening to the signal. The question is not what's wrong with me, it's what has been going unaddressed for too long and what does it need? It's that simple. Didn't say easy, simple. Number 2, the second takeaway, awareness interrupts autopilot. You cannot change what you refuse to look at. Use the notice reset, where we paused, counted to 5, and asked, what am I feeling right now? And name it without judgment. Then go one level deeper and say, what is this trying to protect me from? Naming what's actually happening is the first act of self-leadership, and it creates the gap between the feeling and your response where your real choices live. The third takeaway is self-preservation is not selfishness. It's what keeps you in the game. Use the 90-second static reset when the static rises. Notice where in your body it is. Name what it's actually about. Ask the one thing you could do right now to protect your capacity, and then do it, even if it's small. Tiny, consistent acts of self-preservation teach your nervous system that you matter here too, that mattering is not indulgence. And that is how everything else that you're trying to do becomes sustainable. The fourth takeaway: you can love your people deeply without disappearing inside their needs. Sacrificial love and self-erasing, these two things are not the same. The women who navigate this season well are not the ones who figured out how to give more. They're the ones who finally gave themselves permission to be a person, not just a role. And they're more honest, and they're more intentional, and they're more protected in their peace. That woman is available to you as well, not after life settles down, because when is that going to happen? But right now, in this season, with this life. So that's what I had for you today. It's kind of a lot. And hey, if you know a woman who needs to hear this as well, share this with her. Share this with her, because the more we can have these real, honest, and full conversations as women, specifically as midlife women, the more adequately and the more powerfully we can show up for each other, and we can encourage and support and inspire each other. But we need to get the message out. So share this with someone. Share this with women that you know need to hear this. And so, until we talk again, lead yourself well.